So my name's Matt Plyle. You can call me Matt. You can call me Dr. Plyle. You can call me Professor Plyle. Any one of those will work. So not a problem. I'm pretty informal. I worked in industry for a while, so we never use titles. But when you take engineering classes in the future, the professors, many of them are from other countries, right? And it's really important you use the title, okay? So you always say Professor so-and-so or Dr. so-and-so. But in this class, you know, I'm fine if you call me Matt. That's okay. All right, so those are my different email addresses if you want to email me, but I prefer using the Blackboard messaging system, okay, because that keeps all the communications in one place related to this class. I have lots of other things I do, and if you send me an email to UNM or CNM, I might not see it right away, or I might miss it, because I'm not keyed in on your email address, so I get a couple hundred emails a day. So it's hard for me to keep up. But if you put it in the classroom, Blackboard messaging system, it's all good. And we can go over that if you... Okay, you know, being an engineer, we're kind of geeky. We like outlines. So here's the outline for the talk. I'm not going to spend more time on that. Okay, so let me introduce myself, and then you'll have an opportunity to introduce yourselves to each other. Okay? So you can see where I'm coming from. And you can always ask questions. So I have a PhD, but it's in physics. It's not in engineering. Okay, but I worked as an engineer for 12 years. 6 at Texas Instruments, 6 at Philips Semiconductors. Okay? So I know a little bit about engineering and how it works in the workforce. Okay, I was at some high-tech companies. I managed other engineers and technicians over that period of time. So I learned a lot about engineering in my work experience, and I learned how to manage as well. Okay? So I have a lot of different backgrounds that I draw from my industry experience. So I try not to teach things that won't do you much good in the real world, right? I'm sure you've had teachers that like a lot of theory. I'm more applied, okay? And hopefully you'll see some of that. So I spent 12 years in industry, and then starting around, let's see, when was it? 2003, I started teaching at CNM, and I was teaching microsystems technology, MEMS. Got a grant from the National Science Foundation. That's what this is here, this icon. Okay, it stands for Southwest Center for Microsystems Education. You can Google that, find it online. And we were focused on technician education. And I still have this grant. It's going to be around for at least another year. So I'm managing the grant, teaching teachers. And I teach a lot of MEMS classes. And I'm now also at UNM. I moved the grant from CNM to UNM back in 2008. And I teach in the mechanical engineering department. Engr1010 So how many of you are thinking of mechanical engineering? So you might be in my class next year. It's a lot of fun. We do a lot of project-based stuff. So I teach that class, and you know, maybe I'll be teaching more classes at UNM in the near future, so you may see more of me there if you go to UNM. Okay? That's just my background in a nutshell. I don't want to bore you guys too much with that. Okay, so now what I want you to do is to break up in groups of 3 or 4. Okay? Take about 10 minutes. Find out each other's names. Why are you in this class? What are some of your interests and hobbies? What do you do if you work or just full-time student, whatever? Anything you want to share. You don't have to share things you don't want to share. And what do you want to do in the future? Okay, so what do you do now? What do you want to do in the future? So you'll interview each other in groups of 3 and 4, and then you will introduce the other person, and they will introduce you. So you got to figure out who's introducing who in your group, okay? All right, so you got to get organized. So break up in groups of 3 or 4, no more than 4. So, what do you guys want to get out of this course? Yeah, everybody wants an A. Okay. I don't give grades. You earn them. All right. Everyone can get an A in this class. Everyone can get an F. It's up to you guys, okay? So usually people do pretty well. It is a lot of work. There's a lot of work. For a 1 credit hour class, you probably think you're doing way more than you should. Oh well, life sucks. And you're in engineering, it'll suck more. When Stephen Peralta comes, he'll tell you about how much homework the average engineering student does per week. So you won't have a life. But that's why they pay well. Okay, so what kind of things do you want to get out of the course other than getting an A?
Guidance.
Guidance, okay, that's good.
Learn about different engineering fields.
Yeah, get a familiarity of some of the other fields.
Direction.
Direction, yeah, that's always good to have, right? A compass. Okay.
I love the science behind that engineering counts on.
Okay, the science.
And so I'm looking forward to my mother's husband was a NASA engineer.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the Apollo project managers.
Cool.
And so he's described some of the things that they've done. And what I love is the development of the science. And I'm really looking forward to seeing in this class how that science is applied in so many different, such a diverse arena.
Yeah, I'm a physicist by training, but an experimentalist. So I probably should have been an engineer by training. So I relate better with engineers than with physicists, actually. But yeah, the applied science behind everything. And it's amazing, about 95% of what you do in engineering, in industry, you don't need calculus.
Wait, what? Somebody tells
But they're going to make you take calculus and differential equations and all that fun stuff. But in industry, it's mostly applied, right? When you're making stuff. Now, the guys who design have to know a lot different level of stuff. And of course, if you go into academia, want to be a professor, well, that's what they all teach you at the university is how to be a professor, right? Because that's what they are. So I try to bring in other things. So I always get in trouble. All right, let's continue on. I'll have more discussions on things that you guys want to do, and you'll be asking more questions throughout. I have to talk about these things. So the syllabus isn't written in stone, it's in Blackboard. You can read through it, it tells you kind of what the grading scale is, and you're not supposed to miss class, and you guys all know that stuff. We have lots of different topics we're going to cover. So I highly recommend you read it, but it's subject to change. And if you guys find something interesting, we can maybe change some of the topics around. Okay? I'm not going to make you just say, read chapter 1, do problem 1, 2, and 7, and then we'll have a quiz next week. I'm not going to do all that. You still have to read some of this, okay? But we're going to go off of the path a lot. And like I said, I'm going to try to get some guest speakers. And since you mentioned NASA, the woman I spoke of that homeschooled her 2 kids. She used to work at JPL and at Intel. And so maybe she's got some good stories she can share with us. I hadn't thought of bringing her in, but she would be a great speaker. Okay, we do everything on Blackboard because it keeps me organized, and hopefully it'll keep you organized. Yeah, everything is turned in on Blackboard. Attendance. Okay, you're supposed to come to class. Okay, I got an email today saying if students miss 2 classes, drop them. It's like, oh, that's pretty harsh. But we're only going to have 9 classes this summer because I'm going to be gone for 3 of them. So I guess you could drop me. But that means those 9 that I'm here, it's going to be highly valuable. So don't miss them, okay? So mental attendance is also required. So yeah, it's in the evening. Some of you work all day, get up early in the morning, take kids to daycare and all that fun stuff because, we live in a society now where you have to do everything. So, make sure you drink your Monster drink before coming so you're awake. Sign in every class, right? You don't sign in, you're not here. Right? Because I'm so good with names and faces. So please sign in. Homework's going to be due and posted in Learn. As posted in Learn. I usually give about a week to do most assignments. Complete the reading assignments before class, because I might give you a quiz. But at least you'll know what the hell I'm talking about, right? And you'll be able to participate, okay? So quizzes will mostly be online, because I don't like grading things by hand. So that means open notes, right? But there's usually a shorter amount of time, because I want you to at least prepare for the quiz online and not just open up the quiz and then spend 3 hours trying to find the answer, right? Okay. If you read it, it's easy. You'll write a few things up, and you're going to need you need to always cite your work. That's really, really, really important, okay? Cite your work. I use that plagiarism checking thing. And I taught a dual credit class last semester, and I had high school students that had 100% of their paper wasn't their work. It was cut and paste from the internet. And they thought they wrote the paper. Okay, that's not how we write papers. You write it in your own words, okay? So you can read a bunch of stuff, right? Write it in your own words, and then you can put a footnote, like 1, 2 type of thing, and cite that information and where you got the information. If somebody says something really interesting, you can quote it, right? But put quotes around it, right? Then I know you didn't plagiarize. And that's okay. Unless the whole paper has a quote in the beginning and at the end, then it's no good, right?
Doesn't count.
Well, the whole purpose is processing, right? If you just copy and paste, your brain's not doing anything in between. It's just your hands. So if you have to think about it and put it in your own words, then you'll learn it. And that's the key, right? I want you to learn something. Because hopefully some of this stuff will help you in the future in your classes. Okay, homework projects will be posted on Blackboard as well. And they'll be turned in on Blackboard unless otherwise noted. There might be something that you do in class by hand and you can just turn it in. So it goes. Here's some examples. Okay, so I'm going to post this presentation. The one up online right now is like 2 years old, and I've changed a few nuances. So I'll go ahead and post the latest rev. But it's essentially the same. So these are some ways to cite things. And most of you will get things off of the internet. So this is how you do it, right? So some examples of that. There's a great website, mybib.com or something. You guys ever use that?
Yeah. EasyBib.com.
EasyBib, yeah. That's fine. They use MLA or APA or whatever formats. If you really want to be geeky, you can read the 40-page document from IEEE that tells you how to do references. and equations and all of that stuff. So that's the IEEE manual on how to do papers for their journal. So if you want to sleep, it's a really good read. Okay? But you might want to scan through it. I have a link to it. So the IEEE style manual. Actually, I think we have a newer one now. So they made it longer. This is probably the most interesting, or one of the most interesting parts of the class. Okay, I call it the project. Okay, so the whole idea of this is to reverse engineer your goals. So what's reverse engineering?
Start from the finish, work to the beginning.
There you go. So I want a phone that teleports me to the moon. Now you go backwards and design it, right? Good luck with that, but maybe you can look at the moon. But anyway, that's the whole idea. So you guys have some ideas of what you may want to do. You may not. You may just say, yeah, I don't know. But you can go look up some job descriptions. Oh, that sounds boring. I don't think I want to be that kind of engineer. And then you find something that you know is interesting, and you find a few more job descriptions, see how much they pay. There's statistics on that. Then once you have 3 or 4 or 5 job descriptions, you'll see a lot of similarities. You might find out that a civil engineer needs to know C++ programming. Okay, so if that's the case for your dream job, the curriculum at UNM may not have C++ required for a civil engineering degree, but you still may want to take that class. So you can put it on your resume and then get that kind of dream job if that's something that comes up. So that's an example. What kind of companies do these kind of jobs? So we've got the big companies and we've got the little startups. What would you like to be involved with? They both have their pluses and minuses. In my opinion, if you're young and don't have a life and have lots of time and don't mind working 14 hours a day, you might want to work for a startup or Intel. You work a lot of hours at Intel. But a startup might be a good place to go. So, you'll do everything. You'll do the plumbing. You'll design the sinks. You'll paint the walls. You'll interface with customers. You'll do product integration. You'll write the specs. You'll do the design work, So small startups are great places because you do lots of stuff. Okay? So that leads into this. Small, medium, or large-scale enterprises. Is there a need? Do we need someone to design diving boards for the Olympics? Well, maybe 1 or 2 people on the planet need to know how to do that. But if that's your passion, you might want a backup plan. Right? So, and you can find that out. There's certain websites and stuff that tell you the needs. There's a lot of good government websites that talk about jobs and job needs and all of that. Do you care about the money, or do you care about the job, or both? It's nice to do a job that you love, that really pays well, but it sucks if you have a job that doesn't pay well at all and you hate it. Right? And then there's the job you hate but pays really well. And, do you work to live? Do you live to work? And you've got to balance that. Okay? And then that's one part of the project. The other part of the project is how are you going to get there and how will you succeed? What education do you need? Does the university that you think you're going to go to actually supply you with the skills you'll need to do that job and be successful? Maybe UNM's really good at some things and not very good at others. How do you figure that out? Or maybe you need a master's degree, so you get your undergraduate degree at UNM, but you do your master's at Georgia Tech, because they're the ones who are the experts in whatever field you're interested in. Okay? Will an associate's degree be good enough? Sometimes it's good enough. I worked with two-year graduates that had engineering titles in semiconductor companies. They got paid the same as I did, and they had a two-year degree. Right? Because they were good. They learned. And one of my bosses, Jersey Lyle, I called him Jersey because he was from New Jersey. And he was my boss, and he only had a two-year degree. You know, it was great. Good guy. So, you know, I'll be posting, I'm going to update the project specs for the project a little bit, and then I'll open up that unit online in the next week or so. And you can start thinking about that and start Googling job descriptions and start collecting that so you have that for your project. And start thinking. All right, if you want to talk to me, good luck. No, I'm kidding. You can of course email me or call me even. There's my cell number. Now, how many of your teachers give you their cell number? I have not regretted this yet. Okay? So the reason I do that is sometimes you have a pressing question because something's due in 2 hours and you just looked at it and you're not sure. You can text me. Okay? The other thing you can do is you can email me or message me your question in Blackboard and then text me. You know, I just put a question for you in Blackboard. Can you look at it? Right? Because I only look at Blackboard once a day. Maybe I'll skip a day here and there and look at the messages. So if it's a little bit pressing, you know, text me and tell me who you are too. Right? Include your name at the end of the text and which class. Now, this semester I'm only teaching one class, so that's a moot point. But sometimes I teach 3 or 4 classes, and I'm like, what class are you talking about, right? So having your name in the text is really helpful for me because then I can find your email or your message in Blackboard.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Do you want like a brief description of who we are? Because if you're as bad as names as I am, if someone was to like text me, I'm blah blah blah, I have no idea who that person is.
Well, I can at least find you in the Blackboard list.
Okay.
And then you're going to do an introduce yourself online too, and then I can go, who was that? And then I can read that. Oh, now I remember. But yeah, you can put a brief description, that's fine. I'm the guy who gave you a hard time yesterday about this. Now I've got another thing to give you a hard time about. It's okay. No, I'm just teasing. That's fine. Okay, my official office hours after class. Right? So I can hang around and chat with you guys if you want to chat. I don't think many of you have a class right after this. Is that true? Yeah, okay. And also you probably don't want to stay after class anyway, so I don't have to spend too much time in my office hour. Anyway, I'll try to, and I don't think there's a class in here right before. Some of you were here,
No, it's not.
so it's empty. So I can come earlier too if you want to set something up, and you have to go home right away because you got to make dinner or something. Just say, hey, can I meet you before class, and then I'll come. 15, 20 minutes and a half an hour before class. We can chat. Okay? Or we can chat on the phone or online. I can do a go-to-meeting with you, and then how do you turn stuff in? I can show you that through video conferencing. So there's lots of options. So I taught a class in Mescalero Apache High School this last semester, and it was all video stuff. And that was pretty interesting. Okay? All right. What do you think engineers do?
Build stuff.
Build stuff. Do they? What do you mean by build stuff?
Create, take some things that are already in creation, put it together, and make a new creation.
Yeah, how do they do that? How do they create
Being
things?
smart.
Yeah, they have to be smart.
Math calculations, metallurgy, things of that sort.
They got to design it, right? Is that what you mean? Make stuff? So it's kind of sad because most of the time engineers that are on the making side, they are designers. And sometimes I never see the product. in their hand, right? That's changing a little bit because we have 3D printing. So if you're a mechanical engineer, you can design something and then print a model of it and look at it and go, oh, that's cool. That's a nice little dam or bridge, right? So it's tough. And if they're lucky, civil is a little different. They go on the site all the time and make sure everything's done right and test the concrete load and all of that stuff. So civil engineering is probably more hands-on. Hardware, you the computer guy? Yeah, hardware, designs. I worked in semiconductors. I had these circuit designers that lived in Dallas somewhere. They had never been in a clean room, you know? So they design all of these highfalutin circuits, and I'm sitting there going, why is that line going like that? And now it's going to cross over and not work because it's going to bridge. So I was the process guy. So yeah, they design a lot of stuff. Some engineers sit in front of a computer all day. You know, at least when I was in semiconductors, I got to go in the clean room and talk to technicians and sometimes talk to customers and stuff like that. So, you know, it's not all like that. What else do you think they do?
There's social engineers.
Social engineers. That's interesting. Social engineers. So what do you mean by that? I'm thinking of a couple of things,
Well,
but
depending on the type of social engineer, what their goal is, you know, they kind of basically design, say, an event to happen accordingly with the people in attendance or whatever the event may be.
okay.
Then there's also social engineers that probably basically kind of try and predict how things are going to go for the community in the future.
Cool. All right. Yeah.
I was thinking social engineers along the lines of penetration testing. You know, you try to play on people, the human factor, to gain access to a system, to see how secure the system is. And you know, there's also like, you know, you can also use that to make a living just by, you know, scamming people. You know, it's like a movie, Catch Me If You Can, about a masterful social engineer who was able to, I think he was like a pilot, he flew around all over the place without a license.
It's also a doctor.
Really?
It's a good movie.
And the lawyer passed
A
the bar.
doctor pilot.
He did actually pass the bar though. So
Yeah.
And he was a lawyer too. Yeah.
You're kidding me.
Social engineering, and then the industrial engineering video has a thing about a guy who works with Disney, right? And trying to make crowd control and make the lines more entertaining, and so people don't think they're in line for an hour and a half, stuff like that.
Actually, 3 hours.
They think they're in line for 20 minutes, it's actually 3 hours. Yeah, if you can do that, that's good. So those are some things, so you guys kind of have, that's good. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what you're going to do. Maybe I'll get the computer up. Class is over when?
7:15.
Yeah, so you guys know that really well. Good thing the clock is back there and not there.
That's why we got cell phones though.
Now I have a Garmin that also has a watch. So. Okay, so there's a welcome, there's a start here section, there's a read the syllabus, there's the information stuff, and there's the Blackboard calendar. These are relatively short. The start here is really long. For those of you who've never done an online class, go through each one of those. Okay, just read it. And you'll know where to go to. How do I take a quiz? How do I submit an assignment? Okay, those are the kind of things that the start here thing has in it. So you can go through that. Industrial engineering short videos, part of Unit 1. Okay, that's about 10 minutes long. And then there's a second one that I put on there that's 6 minutes long. So 16 minutes. I think you have enough time to watch both of them. And then there's a short discussion board thing that you have to do. So the discussion board is graded. And then I take a look at it, okay, and I'll grade it. And I base it on how complete is your discussion, and then how complete are your responses to usually 2 to 3 to 4 other students. Okay, so I want you to read what other people think. Might generate some more thought around the topic, and then maybe during class we can talk about some of those things, right? And everybody's got a common ground to talk about. So I thought I'd do industrial engineering because that's really not promoted at UNM much. I think Mexico State has a program in industrial engineering, if I'm not mistaken. Okay? So, a lot of people don't know about this field. So I thought I'd give you a taste of that. And then the other homework is get the book. Now, I recommend, and don't tell anybody in management I said this, but go online. You can probably find the book for $10. Or you can go to the bookstore and pay $50. It's up to you. You can rent these. You can download them on Kindle if you like Kindle. The Kindle thing is $30. I get it for free because I work here. So I put my name on it so it doesn't get lost. Okay, so it's a really good book. I always recommend read the whole thing at some point in your career, preferably sooner than later. We'll be doing stuff out of the first 4 chapters. So there'll be some homework out of the first 4 chapters. And then the other chapters, some of that stuff you get in your classes. So, there's some generic things in there, problem solving and engineering communications and stuff like that. But you probably already know a lot of that. Calculations, I didn't think I'd make you do any math in here, because you'll get enough of that in the other classes. Okay, so, but it's good. It's a good read, especially if you need some sleep. So read chapters 1 and 2, watch the videos, and then the first homework out of the book is 1.4 or 1.7. So I picked these 2 for a reason. 1.4 requires some calculations and some projections and that kind of thing. It's basically talking about the Pyramid of Giza. And then the other one is more on the historical side. Do some research on an engineer or scientist from the past, someone who's dead, okay? And write a report about his or her life. And some people like to do that, get the historical perspective. They both have value. Some people aren't good at writing reports, so you can make drawings and sketches like an ME would do, and do some calculations. Okay? So there were like 2 or 3 of you that have not taken a distance learning course, right? Can you raise your hands again? Okay. So I'll do a quick tour of that in a few minutes. Let's see. Oh, any questions on what I talked about?